I ranked every lead gen strategy from best to worst so that you do not have to guess what to use. And these rankings aren't just theories or speculation. These rankings are based off of my experience after generating tens, if not hundreds of thousands of leads for my business and scaling it to multiple seven figures. So by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what lead generation strategies are going to be best, what are going to be just okay, and what you should probably just stay away from. Our very first strategy is going to be paid ads. So paid ads, this can be anything from running to a landing page, getting lead forms, LinkedIn ads, Instagram ads, Facebook ads. We've spent seven figures plus in order to generate results when it comes to paid ads and have had a lot of success with it. We've also had non-success with paid ads where they just don't work and they're not generating any result. The problem that I see when people are running paid ads for a lead generation strategy is they don't have a strategy. They're doing outdated techniques. They're running ads in an old school way. They're not setting it up properly. They're not putting in the infrastructure in order to actually have a successful campaign, which leads it to failing. To me, the pros in running ads, it's like fast results. It's also really scalable. You just need to spend more money in order to get more results, assuming that the strategy is actually going to work for you. You can reach a lot of people, again, dependent on how much money that you're going to spend. You can generate a pretty high volume and some good targeted leads as well. The cons are lots of bad strategies out there. A lot of people just spray and pray thinking that that's what's going to do well. It costs money. Our strategies typically get anywhere from $20 to $30 per lead, but there's been times where it's been like $50 to $100 to even $150 cost per lead, which can be really, really expensive. And also, like, if the strategy is bad, it's going to be a series of like chasing people down pretty much, because what you're doing is you're throwing out something into the marketplace. You're getting people to respond in some way, shape, or form. And then it's your job to get those people from responding to becoming a client or becoming a booked call. And the problem is like, you can't be super specific with who you're targeting. You're always going to get people who are not going to be your target audience who may still respond to the ad, which could skew the result. And like the people that do respond, they might just be like opting in for some reason, and you're just going through chasing people down essentially, especially if you're doing like a lead form or something along those lines. If you're targeting, if your strategy is not good, it's not going to be successful for you. And another con is that you're tied into the meta matrix, where if you are just relying on paid ads, it can feel like you're handcuffed to meta and you're handcuffed to Google ads or whatever it could be, and that's your sole way of getting business. But at the end of the day, from a ranking perspective, I'm a big fan of paid ads. We've had a lot of success with paid ads. If you guys do it right, it can be a super scalable way to generate leads, to generate a lot of results for your business. I mean, we've spent a ton of money on ads and have had a lot of success, but that has been with the right strategy. I think there's no other way to run a paid campaign than running paid Facebook or Instagram ads. I'm going to put it as an S. Let's go to number 2, which is going to be cold calling. We at our company did a series of cold calling. I got this dialer. I was like pulling all these lists of phone numbers, and basically I had this like dialer that would auto dial people automatically. And I was like, let's do some cold calls and let's give this a shot for the next couple of months and really see if this could work. The problem with it was like I couldn't reach enough people. Like we definitely got some conversions from cold call, but there's only so many hours and so many dials that you can make that it became a little bit tricky to really scale that up unless you're hiring a call center to just do dials all day. And also it can be a little bit challenging depending on the niche on who it is that you're trying to get in front of. So this is really, really niche dependent. What we always said is like for every 100 dials that we made, we would hope to get one positive reply from that or one booked call from every 100 dials, because people don't necessarily pick up their phones, and really the conversions for us for dialing was not that strong. But there are some pros. I mean, the pros are immediate decision makers online. So like if you are calling somebody who has an easily accessible phone number, like a real estate agent, or if you can find people who have their phone numbers listed publicly, and it's really easy to find like a direct contact of people who actually need to use the phone, insurance agents, like whatever it could be, because they actually need to use the phone and people call them personally, you can get in touch with the decision maker pretty quick. Easy to make a personal connection. The cons though is definitely a volume issue. Also, like the cons is gonna be like low pickup rate and then gatekeepers, right? If you're calling dentists, for example, like you're gonna have to go through 3 gatekeepers. The dentist is probably actually treating somebody. So it's gonna be really hard to actually get to the person and talk to them. And if you do talk to them, are they thrown off guard? It's kind of interrupting them in some way. So there's a lot of cons. And to me, it's not really a scalable lead gen strategy and is not something that I would invest my time into unless I had an offer that had a lot of phone numbers and that was something that I would tack onto it. So I'm putting this in as an F just from like a priority in my eyes of what you guys should be doing. Cold calling would not be a huge priority for me. I think there's better better options out there as it pertains to getting in front of people. Next is going to be cold DMing on Instagram. What we've done is we've gone with like a really straightforward value add approach where we DM them, we ask them a question about their post to start a conversation, and then we veer that conversation into the goals around the business. I've gone as far as like, I'm going to buy 5 Instagram accounts and I'm going to DM from 5 Instagram accounts. And that way I can get the volume up, because it's always going to be a volume game. It's always going to be how many messages that can you send, all that sort of stuff. From our experience, we would send around 500 a day from a lot of different accounts and never really had a lot of success with it. For every like 50 messages, we would maybe get a positive reply and be able to start a conversation. I don't know if it was our strategy was wrong, but it just wasn't a winning strategy for us when we did it. And it's not something that we ended up prioritizing, but there are some pros to it. Like, this is great if you're just starting out because you can target ideal customers and it's pretty simple to target them. Okay. If your ideal customer is, again, like a personal brand, or maybe the decision maker is active on Instagram, like you can find them on Instagram and you can literally target the person that you're wanting to talk to on Instagram. And the other benefit is like they're active there. So if you work with a niche that's active on Instagram or active on Facebook, they're there. People spend hours a day on social media. Our job is to go where the attention is and get in front of them. And another pro is you can do like a multi-touch point approach, meaning like you can like their stuff, you can follow them, you can comment on them, you can respond to their stories so that you're top of mind to them and promote getting a response. The cons, of course, is like there is a limit you can send per day. If I sent 50 messages a day from my account, I would probably get blocked, or Instagram would flag it as spam, especially if you have a new account and it's not warmed up, then you're going to hit your limits pretty quickly. It's also like super saturated. And then lastly, like you get buried in the request. Your DM that you're sending is not actually going to go into the DMs. It's actually going to go into a request folder, and hopefully that when they see that message in the request folder, they actually respond. So all in all, guys, conversion rate from cold DMing, it is a grind. It is something that could be risky. It's also something that you just can't send a lot of volume on when it comes to sending cold DMs via Instagram. But on the flip side, if you're just starting out, if you're targeting coaches, consultants, people who are really, really active on Instagram, and you're more specific with who you're actually DMing and you have a good strategy for DMing, this could be a arsenal in the tool belt that you are doing if you're not running paid ads, if you're not doing cold calling, you're not doing any of these additional strategies, adding it to the arsenal at a safe volume to really targeted people with a really good message, it could work. So with that being said, with the lack of volume, with the risk, I'm going to put that as a B-. If you're just starting, then this would be a little bit different, but this is just my opinion if I were trying to generate leads. The next strategy that I'm going to talk about is cold email. So basically sending cold emails, not from like your inbox and just getting a list and manually sending, but automating the cold email approach so that you can send at an extremely high volume and being able to get in the inboxes of the decision makers. I mean, typically what we see is 2 to 5% reply rate. And from that reply rate, we typically see anywhere from 30 to 50% positive replies, depending on the copy, and making sure that our copy and our strategy is actually good. I'm actually a really big fan of cold email. We sent 10,000 emails a day at one point because it was ripping that much for us, and we're able to get a lot of leads. And what I really like about it is you can literally land in the inbox of target customers. So this is really good for almost any industry because almost every decision maker checks their email, and the value of being able to land in the inbox of the decision maker is massive. Like there's no other real mechanism that you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get seen or land in the inbox of the person that you're wanting to actually reach out to at the scale that cold email allows you to do. The other benefit of cold email is that your cost doesn't necessarily go up significantly while you're scaling cold email as it would with paid ads, because the only variable is how many more contacts can you reach out to, how many more emails can you create in order to send people through. So it's scalable without having to really spend a lot more money on your infrastructure in order to get in front of those people. I also like it because it is automated. So I'm a big automation guy. We automate like 10,000 tasks a month inside of our business. And with cold email, it is pretty much a sit it and forget it kind of thing. Like I'm definitely not sending emails manually, but I can get to a point where I'm sending 10,000 emails every single day. And I can just sit back while the emails are being sent. And all I need to do is create the strategy for the email that's actually going to get positive responses and lead to us booking more calls and getting more deals as a result of cold email. And then lastly, like there's software out there, like a tool like Instantly that measures it and allows you to see how effective your cold emails are actually doing. Like if we're adding personalization to a strategy, cool. How did that do? If we're calling out this pain point, cool. How did that do? And we have a lot of data. Like cold call software, you can see data, but like cold DMing, you're pretty much just shooting in the blind unless you're sending an email, adding it to a spreadsheet, sending a DM, adding it to a spreadsheet, which is probably not going to be conducive to your time. And as far as like cons go, like it can be a little bit more saturated. I mean, I think I saw a stat that CEOs get like 100 something emails every single day. And the reason that it is quote unquote saturated is because it works and a lot of people are using it. So when it comes to standing out in a saturated market, that's where your strategy comes into play. And that's why you want to make sure you have a good strategy. So it's really important to not just close your eyes and throw spaghetti on the wall and hope something sticks. It's important that you have a really solid offer, really solid targeting, really solid copywriting so that you can actually stand out and get the attention of the person that you're reaching out to. There's also like some compliance / spam possibilities, especially if you're sending an email from your inbox and you're just doing it manually and you send 100 emails a day from one inbox, you're going to get marked as spam. So with software like Instantly, you can actually buy multiple emails inside of Instantly and have multiple emails firing a safe amount of emails so that you actually land into the inbox of the customers that you're wanting. This isn't great for like creators because it's harder to find those people that you're targeting. This is definitely like a great play for B2B, for business owners who often are on email. So if you're targeting creators, it might be a little bit more tricky to find their emails, to actually get in front of their inboxes and have them be responsive in the means of using cold email. Then lastly, it would just be like technical setup. Oftentimes people can be really intimidated by like, oh my gosh, I have to create 10 different emails if I want to send 300 emails a day or 500 emails a day. And oh my gosh, I have to build these lists and find all these things in order to actually have the infrastructure to set it up. Luckily tools like Instantly now have a built-in list builder where you can have a list of leads across thousands of different industries and millions of different emails that you can send to directly inside of there. It's called Lead Finder. When it comes to setting up the emails, they have a done for you setup. You can buy emails per each domain, literally in like 3 clicks, and it's a lot cheaper than doing it yourself and will save you hours on the technical setup. So overall, cold email is probably one of the most effective strategies that we've used in our business, and I'm a huge proponent of cold email when done right. And for that reason, I'm going to slap this on S. So I think cold email is a affordable, great solution for a lot of different businesses to implement in generating leads, hands down. All right, the next strategy that we are going to talk about is in-person events and meeting people in person. So when I first started my business, I would 100% attend events. I would shake hands. I would meet a lot of people. And there's a lot of value to it because the thing that we want as business people is we want to get in front of our target audience and we want FaceTime. As you guys know, if we're selling something online, like our goal is to book a Zoom call and get some FaceTime with the client. And if you go to events, trade shows, industry events where your target audience is, there's a lot of value when it comes to meeting people in person. I think this is a good strategy for people who are more so selling like high ticket, and it's much of a like relational sell, because if you're selling something that's high ticket, a lot of the reasons that people work with you when you're selling high ticket is because they have a really deep trust with you. And in order to build that trust, it's hard to send a cold DM or cold call them because there's no trust established there, especially from a high ticket perspective. So in addition, like oftentimes like you could set up booths at some of these events. I've seen people go to like home shows and they've set up like a marketing booth. Like we've even set up booths before specific industry events and like had a booth with like a wheel and like a screen showing our work, and we're handing out cards and all that sort of stuff. It did work. Like we got some good FaceTime, probably maybe got 2 booked calls from doing events like this. Obviously this was a little bit of a smaller scale, but it's not something that we spent a lot of time investing in or looking for things that we can do for reasons that I'll explain. So the pros, it's like high ticket relational building. Pros is like FaceTime, like you get FaceTime immediately and it builds trust. The cons would be like, it can be kind of expensive to do the trade shows, especially if you're traveling for one and then you're buying a booth and then you're like crossing your fingers. You got to buy all this swag. You got to buy all this stuff for the thing, and it can stack up. Also the cons, it's like, it takes a lot of energy. For me, I'm a little bit more introverted. So like going to an event and meeting people and laughing at jokes that aren't funny just to like hopefully get a meeting doesn't really sound that appealing to me, and doesn't really sound like something that would be the best use of my time. Also, it's like a lot of like guessing. So like we're going to guess if the person that we want to target is going to be there. We're going to guess that our ideal customer who's qualified is going to be there. Like we don't really know if the pinpointed person, because oftentimes they'll send somebody from their company to these events, and we don't really know if the decision maker is actually going to be there. And lastly, it's just not really scalable. If you're spending all this money, all this energy to guess and hopefully get contact and hopefully get a meeting, I just don't really see it being that scalable. So for that reason, I'm going to put this as I think it's going to be a C. I think it'll only work if you're working with like high ticket people, or if you only work with really, really specific customers, or if somebody is at the event that you really want to work with. That's the only way that I could see the trust having a lot of impact in providing like a really good return on investment. So let's talk about the next strategy, which is going to be content creation and building your brand. So content, posting on social media, posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook, posting on YouTube, posting on LinkedIn, posting on all the social channels to show your expertise. This is something that I've been doing for years to really help all of the strategies that I'm talking about, as well as scale trust. So like our first clients when we were starting an agency came from me just posting on social media and letting people know this is what I'm doing, this is how I can help you, and being able to share our expertise as it pertains to what it is that we're actually doing to help people like them. Frankly, we've had a lot of success with it still, and it's something that I invest a ton of time in is content creation on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram. And the reason that we're doing this is because it works. So, I mean, the pros of content creation is like scales trust. 100%. People work with who they know, who they like, and who they trust. And there's no other way to scale trust than social media, providing value to people through content and showing up. Also, it's like where the attention is. People spend hours on social media. If I can go to where the attention of my customers are, then I will be able to scale trust. And this really works for everybody. CEOs are on social media, they're scrolling. Like a lot of business owners, decision makers, they're on social media, whether you know it or not. The cost of creating content is really your time and making sure that you're investing your time into it. But again, like if you can get in front of thousands of people a month, and depending on your niche and depending on your offer, that number could 10x. It could be a really high ROI money-making activity. I always say creating content is for sure a money-making activity. Then lastly, this stuff compounds, okay? If you're creating content on YouTube, on LinkedIn, like although you may not get like a direct result, the compound of you adding value to your specific customer is going to compound over time, and that's going to create more authority in their eyes, which is going to create more trust, which is going to increase the likelihood when they think about the problem that you solve that they're going to go to you. The cons, on the other hand, it takes time. Like it's not something that's going to be immediate. It's not something that's going to happen where you can say, oh, I'm going to post 10 times and I'm going to get a client. It could take months. It's competitive. So there's a lot of people creating content and it's hard to stand out. So you need to make sure that your content's actually good and actually valuable. It's a little bit unpredictable. Like you can't say, oh, I posted 3 videos and 2 posts, and for every 3 videos and 2 posts, I'm going to get a client. Like it's not really working like that. It's sort of like the referrals and word of mouth thing, like where it's like, cool, I'm going to post and hopefully I'm going to hit, like basically pound the stone, get in the mind of my customer, and hopefully they have the pain that I struggle with, which would prompt reaching out to me. And then lastly, it can be like vulnerable a little bit just because you have to like maybe create videos and you never created videos because you're really good at what you do. And it can be a little bit vulnerable to start essentially because you're putting yourself out there. You don't know who's going to see it. You don't know how many people are going to see it. And it can feel a little bit nerve-wracking at first to create content and put yourself out there. Overall, content is, to me, an essential lead generation strategy because what content does is it helps all the other lead generation strategies that you're doing. Content is the lubricant to your bottom of the funnel strategies, like the paid ads, like the emails that scale trust, because people are not going to just respond to your email or respond to your paid ads without doing some diligence and checking out your social media, checking out if this person's legit, making sure I trust this person. Does this person actually have authority in the space? With that, I'm putting content as an absolute necessity for the S. The next strategy that we're going to talk about is LinkedIn DMing. LinkedIn is a professional platform where a lot of people go for professional connections and posting professional content. People look for jobs on that sort of site. So that really the context of LinkedIn is this is going to be a professional platform and strictly for business. We've definitely had a lot of success on LinkedIn, have gotten clients from specific industries from LinkedIn because a lot of the B2B style businesses are on there. A lot of the high level business owners and decision makers are active on LinkedIn, whether they're recruiting, whether they're creating content for their brand, whether they're trying to scale trust with the businesses that they work with. LinkedIn creates a lot of opportunities from like the high ticket B2B space. Like what we've seen most of the time from like a cold LinkedIn perspective is sending a connection request and then being able to send a message and have a conversation with them and being able to really target the person that we're reaching out to, because you can do that inside of LinkedIn. Conversions not as strong with the outbound DM for the reasons that we've talked about from like like the volume perspective, but quality could be a little bit higher with LinkedIn, and that is a very net positive. So the pros of LinkedIn is like super targeted. So you can go literally to the filters inside of LinkedIn. You can find someone who works here and you could literally search by their job title. And we know that if we're DMing that person, they work at this company, they've been there for that long, and they're the position that I want to reach out to. So that is a massive pro. It's very contextual to business. So people expect to have like business conversations on LinkedIn, and they expect that the conversation inside of LinkedIn will be some sort of context of business. So it's not really weird to start a conversation that's surrounding the context of business. So people are more so expecting that. If your niche is on LinkedIn, like if your niche is B2B, if your niche is someone who's also targeting business owners, then likely the decision maker, likely the person that is working in the B2B space who's also selling to businesses is going to be on LinkedIn and active and ready to go. So as far as the cons go, there are limits. You can't really scale it because there are connection request limits and there are message limits every single day. And the limits aren't that high and not going to be conducive to getting a ton of results, which is a problem. Another con is like it is saturated as well. Saturated meaning there's a lot of people, like if I open my LinkedIn and I go through my messages, I can tell that they're all trying to sell me something. And a lot of people are using it for the same case of generating leads. And the other con would just be like time. Like it takes a lot more time to do research, to find the person to reach out to. You're going to have to filter by this person because you have to be super specific because there's so many limits. You're going to have to take a lot of time to determine if this is how you want to use that message, how you want to use that connection request, which we know is going to hinder depending on who we're reaching out to, what our offer is. I think LinkedIn works if you are targeting really specific contacts, high ticket, and are okay with a lower volume in order to hopefully have a higher upside. But from like the time versus outcome ratio, it's not something that I'm spending a lot of time on. So I'm going to put this as a C as well. A C just because of the constraints. But again, it could be like a C plus or maybe even a B minus. C plus, B minus is where I would put it. The last lead generation strategy that we're going to talk about is simply a referral system. So coming up with a system to get referrals, whether that's you're going to do a referral bonus to somebody if they refer somebody to you. Like what we do is we give $500 for every single person that refers somebody to us. And this is a huge value add because we've spent thousands of dollars in paying out referrals, but the benefit is that we don't have to do anything. Our cost per acquisition is just receiving the referral from the client or receiving the referral, receiving the email introduction. And if we close them, then our cost per acquisition is $500. And if we're selling something high ticket, that's not too significant. So if you look at your offer, if you look at your price and you have the ability, you have the margin to pay somebody to refer you and pay, especially like your clients, your current clients who are satisfied to refer you, it is worth your time to come up with a system and to incentivize them and make that an expectation. And like when you're onboarding them, be like, hey, if you're having a really good experience and you have a business owner that wants to work with us, cool. Like we'll give you $500 or we'll give you 10% off your next month, which they now have planted in their brain. And assuming that your delivery is good and assuming that you're getting them results, they will be happy to refer them. So the pros of the referral system is like CPA is very small, depending on how you work the referral system, and very warm leads. Like the people that are referred are likely going to be pretty warm and they don't need much more proof if they came from a friend who is also getting results using your services, right? Like they're going to be warmed up. They're going to be pre-sold essentially, which is what we want when it comes to generating leads. In the cons, I mean, you just need to like come up with a profitable system and you also need to come up with a system. Like the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, we're going to give you $1,000 per referral. And then you find out that your cost per acquisition is a lot less than $1,000 and you're actually losing money or your margins are significantly hindered. And you need to come up with a system. Like you can't just throw something out there and hope that it's going to stick. Like you do need to take time to make sure that there is a system in place. That is something that's productized and something that is systematized that you can train the team and then also set expectations with the clients and market that to the clients and train the clients on how to give the referrals and where you're communicating the referral system and all that sort of stuff, which typically we do in the onboarding and from the jump. And then we reinforce it. We're constantly reinforcing it. So if you guys have a lot of clients, you have margin for this, you have margin to give out finances based off of referral. This is a super solid strategy. Like I would hands down do this 110%. And for that reason, that's why I'm going to give it an A. When it comes to lead generation strategies, you need to have a good offer. You need to make sure your targeting is really good. We want to have a value first approach, meaning that we're we're adding value to people via email, via DM, via LinkedIn, via social media, via referral system, whatever it could be, we are adding value. We're leading with value, which is going to increase the likelihood of them to actually respond. And ultimately, we need to make sure that we have a strategy in place. Paid ads won't work if you don't have a good strategy. Cold email won't work if you don't have a good strategy. Social media won't work if you don't have a good strategy. And good strategy will come from adding value and knowing your target customer. One of the most important aspects of this, in my opinion, is learning the skill of copywriting as it pertains to your offer. How can we influence through words? How can we influence through copy? Whether that's email, whether that's DM, whether that's social media. The more that we understand our offer, our audience, we will see the results that we are expecting and hoping. And then lastly, guys, we need to be tracking this stuff because what gets tracked gets improved. If you don't measure anything, there will be nothing to improve. So every single lead generation strategy that we set up, we need to have a tracking mechanism to see how it's doing. And if you're watching this, you're like, oh my God, I need to get like leads today. Probably the fastest way to get leads and the quickest way to do it at a really high volume without breaking the bank is going to be cold email for sure. And in this video, guys, I did hit on cold email a little bit, which is a super effective strategy in getting more leads and really growing your business. But in a video like this, I don't really have time to actually break down what makes cold email effective. How can you actually convert using cold email? Which is why in this video right here, I break down the exact system that you need to use in order to effectively set your cold email up so that you can get more leads, that you can book more calls, and ultimately grow your business. Thanks so much for you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.